It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out. I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Good morning. Welcome to the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Bright day. All is well. Lots of stuff to talk about today. I see I've got Elfrida back with us this week. Good morning, Elfrida.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to have you. We've got a special guest, well, kind of a quasi-special guest because he's a quasi-special regular. Allan Lengel's back from Deadline Detroit.
Good morning. Good morning.
And I see that we have Little Bo Peep with us today.
At least I've been called Little. First time in a long time.
Is that David Einstandig behind the Foster Grants? And what do you call that? Is that a safari hat?
A hat, a sun hat.
Are you wearing that because of the sun?
Yes. Because you like this bright
yeah, we
lights.
normally don't have a lot of sun in Detroit, in Michigan.
Why? It was plenty of sun. What are you talking about?
Okay, so you're going to keep that on the whole day?
All day.
There's no sun inside, though, right?
Sometimes.
When you got up this morning, you just say, I want to just come to the show and have something different on, so I'll wear my hat. What was going on? What were you thinking?
I was wearing the hat when I got up, so it didn't really matter.
You went to bed with the hat.
Yes.
That's kind of like a Brian type of a thing to do.
I haven't slept with Brian, maybe.
No, okay, touche. There, you got me there.
Why don't we move on?
And it's the morning.
That's a good idea. Well, welcome, David Einstein. Nice to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Issues today. Word of the day is issues, because I want to talk about two issues on this segment and on the next segment. With Allan here, I want to do an update on crime and politics in Detroit, because you're the guy, you're the go-to guy in our view from the standpoint of what's going on in the beat. And I know that there was just a recent crime report that came out. And we've got issues with the mayor race that are always fun to talk about. But then I want to get to a big national issue that's going to affect everybody, and it's the student loan debt problem. And I want to explore that end of this segment, carry it forward into the next segment, kind of flush through a lot of issues with the massive growing amount of student debt, what's going on with the interest rates on the student debt, and how do you deal with paying back the student debt, and what repercussions does that have in the future, and what are the better alternatives than what we're seeing Congress debate. So we'll get into all of that. So anyway, what's new at Deadline? Allan Lengel, a little bit of background. Allan is co-founder of Deadline Detroit. If you want a website in metropolitan Detroit to go to that really pulls together everything relating to Detroit issues, metropolitan issues, with national issues mixed in, Deadline Detroit is a phenomenal site. It's very current. A lot of columnists. Allan's co-founder of it. When did it start? 2000.
Started last year. Excuse me. We launched April of 2012.
With Bill McGraw.
Bill McGraw, who had been at the Free Press for 32 years, and really I always thought of as one of the best journalists in Detroit.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was just that you started it last year. It seems like I've heard the buzz on it has grown so much in the last year that I would have thought it started a couple years ago.
Well, we got off to a good start. I think we've gotten a lot of attention, and I know a lot of the other media pays attention to us, and so far so good.
Is Tickle the Wire still going?
Tickle the Wire still going. I started that. I left the Washington Post in 2008, took a buyout, started a website on federal law enforcement news called TickleTheWire.com. Initially, some people thought it was a porn site, but
that would attract more.
I should have I should have promoted it more as that.
Sometimes that line gets blurred depending on what country our authorities are in.
But actually, Tickle the Wire is actually an old law enforcement term. When like the FBI would put up a wiretap and they wanted people to talk on the wiretap, they'd maybe execute a search warrant or leak something into the press, and hoping that people would get on the phone lines and start talking to each other and say, hey, did you hear they just raided Ralph's house? And, hey, you better hide this stuff and you better not say anything. So they called it Tickling the Wire.
Did they tickle the wire to get Kwame to get on his phone and talk?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they paid particular attention when certain
There's some new
things.
big contracts coming out. Did you hear that? And
Right.
boom, boom, boom.
What are your thoughts about Snowden?
I have mixed feelings. I mean, it's nice to see what our government's up to. At the same time, I mean, our government should have some secrecy if we're going to do, intelligence and things like that. But unquestionably, when the government has such secrecy, there's some things that happen that are probably illegal or borderline illegal or certainly unethical. And so I have mixed feelings about the whole thing.
I hope they apprehend him and throw him in jail.
Yeah.
But now that apparently Venezuela is giving him asylum.
Right.
which-
They found a country.
That
There's always a country out there who's willing to poke the
Nicaragua
U.S.
also.
That's willing to poke the U.S. in the
Yeah.
eye, and I think
It would have been an
Venezuela.
interesting lotto to predict which country would ultimately offer him asylum. If you think about it, Venezuela is perfect because they've been, on against us. They have oil, so they don't need the United States. Is what it
Right.
comes down to.
Apparently,
And we don't give them
isn't
any
he
money.
still sitting in the airport in Moscow somewhere?
I don't know.
Oh, really?
I don't know, but I think
I hope there's a Cinnabon there.
Oh, I love Cinnabon. Why did you bring
Hey, I
that
heard
up?
that Cinnabon is actually coming back to the 12 Oaks Mall. My wife was
Oh,
just
really?
there, and she
Wow.
said there's a sign up that
Yeah, but what's his
Cinnabon is
name? The
returning.
ex-Lion, he didn't have a good run with the Cinnabon.
Who?
The wide receiver, what was his name?
Listen, you
I don't
can't.
know.
Yeah, it was one of the
If you wanna-
stars on the Lions receiver. He owned the Cinnabon in the airport. Didn't go so well.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Really?
Huh.
That's
That's
it
because there's
wasn't in the
probably
mall.
people like us are just hoping they have a
if you want to
toothpick.
be able to
We
pick
just
up
want a sample. We don't want a whole Cinnabon.
2,500 calories in a small contained item, that's the perfect place to go. You can knock down 2,500 calories in 15 minutes or less.
Cinnabon doesn't work unless it's in a mall. That's what has to happen.
I used to like it at the airport. Remember the old Berry terminal at the Detroit at Detroit Metropolitan Airport, and
Sure.
you'd go there, and that
What
was
terminal?
it was called the Berry terminal, wasn't it?
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Before the McNamara terminal.
Okay.
Wow.
Didn't
It's
Some
not
history.
that dated.
Know
You
that.
were around then.
Didn't know that.
And they had the Burger King on one side, and the Cinnabon was right across
Wow.
from it. And when we were going on a vacation, that was a ritual stop, was to the Cinnabon. I would just have coffee.
Right.
The family would.
No
have the
bite?
Cinnabon. Yeah, maybe a bite. They're pretty good. Oh, jeez. We have covered nothing on the show so far.
Issues.
And,
We're
So it's
talking
just
about
like last week.
We're coming up to a break.
Cinnabon issues.
Cinnabon issues.
When we come back, I want to talk about crime in Detroit, because there was a recent crime report in terms of where we are on assaults, where we are on murders. Then we'll swing it over to the mayor race, and then we're going to start getting into student debt. We'll be back after the break.
Don't let legal problems destroy your family or your life. Get the justice you deserve. I'm Sabrina Cronin of the Cronin Law Firm, and I'm here to make things right. My firm handles family law, business law, and even criminal law. We can handle all of your legal needs. So whatever you're facing, I'm here to get you justice. You can't afford not to call. Call 855-CRONIN-LAW today.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did. We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Welcome back. We've got Allan Lengel from Deadline Detroit, along with Frida Bowden, and we have Little Bo Peep, David Einstandig. We're kind of kicking around some issues with regard to finance, politics, crime in Detroit. So, Allan, there's a new crime report came out. I saw that to me the glaring statistic there was 153 murders first 6 months of the year. We beat New York. New York had 154 murders. So we're doing really well.
Right. Well, it's always good when the homicide rate declines, but it's still way too high.
I did a little
like
math.
you say, when you put
I did a little math on
Oh,
the
wait, are
numbers.
you going to factor in the 7.6 million more people in New York?
Well,
how did that come out?
I took an estimate of 700,000 people in Detroit.
Fair number.
And I just wanted to compare and just a little division. And the Detroit numbers are first of all, it's almost one a day in Detroit. But the Detroit numbers are 1 in every 4,575 people if you take a ratio. Whereas in New York, it's 1 in every 55,194. So you're looking at a rate of 10x plus.
So you have a 12-time greater chance
Right.
of getting killed in Detroit than you do in New York.
I mean, part of it is, when you look at the stats, some of it's heartening if you want to just look at really numbers, that there's a decline. But there's also the robberies and the larcenies are up. And that is really a lifestyle issue. That all of us can feel going into a gas station, looking over our shoulders, worrying about, being robbed. And that's still a major problem. And that's something,
And actually, it's an interesting point because what I thought about when I saw that statistics of the lower egregious crimes compared to
Right.
murder, I thought of Rudy Giuliani and Bloomberg and their broken window theory, which basically is we are going to investigate and prosecute even a broken window because the broken window leads to another crime, leads to a bigger crime, leads to this crime. And eventually you're going to get to those heinous crimes. Stop it at the broken window.
Right,
and that may be why there's 12x or 10x or whatever X you want to use.
I'll have to say, yesterday I was preparing the outline during the day, and I had read this article, and then I drove to an ATM machine by my house, and it was dusk, so it wasn't dark out, but you could still there was kind of a beat up truck kind of hovering in the lot. And so I was at the front of at the line, and I could see that truck, and I'm thinking, if that truck went and kind of blocked my exit path, all this whole thought process is going through my head as I'm sticking the card in. And then the truck takes off and drives by and leaves. And I see it was just like a little old lady in the truck. And I said, I guess I'm a little bit paranoid.
You could have taken her.
No, but that's what we have to do is you have
gotta
to kind of
be alert.
Yeah, you have to be aware of your
there was
surroundings.
an armed bank robbery just last week or the week before in Birmingham proper.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
It's still disheartening.
We could live
all the numbers.
crime would be nice.
Right.
We need
the
Al
numbers
from
are still
Action
bombing.
Auto,
I did a story a while ago. I think we may have talked about it on the show about gas stations filling up and gas stations in Detroit. And there's so much crime happening at gas stations where people are getting their car. They'll go into the store, they'll have the car broken into, they'll have the purses snatched, they're robbed, they're carjacked. I think they said 30% of the carjackings in the city are at gas stations.
At gas stations when you're walking.
Because it's so
into it.
convenient. People have the key, the car's there. It's one of the easiest ways to carjack
and
is
they
at a
always
gas
have
station.
multiple exits, ingress and egress at the gas station that you can get out if you have to. I'm being serious.
Right.
That if you've got a car or foot or bike, you can get out of that corner usually quickly.
Right.
And blend in.
So you got to
somewhere.
drive 20 miles to go get gas to a more secure site.
Well, probably go to the gas station with other folks in the car with you and go during the day. Of course, that helps. But, yeah, also
I was
drive
talking.
a little bit.
I guess you could take your mother-in-law with you to the gas
No, you
station.
need-
You could go inside.
Are you?
Shirley, that was just a joke. I was just kidding.
I was talking, when I was working on that story, I was talking to somebody at the Detroit, detective in the Detroit Police Department who was giving me advice on when you're at a gas station, look at people. Make sure you look at them. You know, if you're close to them, say hello to them. He said the only time, he says, if you're being robbed, he says, don't look at them. Look down at the ground. Don't look at them.
Are you an E-driver? How close to E in the tank do you drive? Do you like to push it?
I don't push it anymore. I used to push it. At this point, I try and consciously look to fill up at a half, and almost always by
half a tank.
Yeah, and by a quarter.
Wow.
You're getting so
my father
old.
was always 3/4
You're getting
of a
so
tank.
old.
When I was a youth, I would go.
a youth.
I would wait for the warning light to go on, and then I'd check the gas and see how many miles were left.
I think I did that last week.
I remember my mother had a
You're so
Dodge
youth.
had a Dodge Challenger, I think, and the car would go from a half to zero gas
Like that.
in 4 minutes. I was living out of town. I came back in town for like a week. I ran out of gas twice in that car in the middle of the winter. It was awful. So I think that kind of sobered me up on filling up the tank. Plus, I've got Bonnie at home who, when she fills up at 3/4.
That's what my father always be 3/4 of the tank. He'd freak out if he saw I was down to a quarter.
I like to fill up when gas is low or when it's warm outside in the winter. If it's a warm day and I'm and I top off the tank, why not? Just because at least it's warm. Because I don't like standing out there when it's 15 degrees. I'll also get back in the car, leave the engine running, and stay warm.
No.
Do you do that? I never do that.
There's
you
rules
leave the car,
against that.
You leave the engine. Yeah, it's against the law, but you
You
leave
can
it
blow up
running.
everybody.
Yeah, hopefully no one will follow me. I've never heard of
Follow
anyone.
you?
know, I mean, yeah, follow me to the gas station and arrest me for leaving the car on while I'm getting gas. Yeah, I've done that. No, I've never done that. I don't want people to think poorly of me. I was just joking. I would never do something so stupid as that.
Well, let's assume 20 years ago, 30 years ago that you were also a smoker. Would you smoke while you were filling up?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And when I go ballistic when I see someone with a cigarette at a gas station.
What if you saw a guy with a hookah?
Carrying it around in
Yeah.
one hand,
Yes.
toking it on
Yes.
the other. Is that what you
Yes.
call it? I don't even know.
Toking's a decent one.
I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, that's hilarious.
You know, now it's becoming so popular. You'll probably
It is.
see it happen in the next couple of months.
It is.
Yeah, the spots are opening all over town. We're coming up to a break. I think that kind of wraps up crime. I kind of want to get Allan's take on the mayor race. I did read your recent column this week on Tom Barrow's activities. We'll cover that after the break, and then we're going to go into student loans, which I consider to be the next big aspect of financial crisis for this country. We'll be back.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances in contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Financially strapped? Do you want to save your home?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop. For the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition, Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course. With the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
Carrying too much debt? Dump your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Welcome back. So, back to the mayoral race. The mayoral race for the city of Detroit. So Dugan's off the ballot. He's going to wage a write-in campaign.
Right.
I happened to read your column. What was that about?
About Tom Barrow. Well, you know, Tom Barrow, it's like you don't really get an idea what he stands for, except that he's for getting Duggan off the ballot and trying to prevent Duggan from running. I think he sees that as strategically as a opening for him possibly to get at least maybe the number 2 spot, but he's kind of a perennial loser. I don't even see him winning even no matter what.
He has no chance.
Right.
But maybe a victory for him is to permit.
That was his only victory he's going to have.
He certainly did a favor for Benny Napoleon.
His legacy is that he'll get Napoleon elected. Is what?
Yeah, I'd say he certainly did Benny Napoleon a favor by.
He did. But I think Duggan's got a good shot at least coming in number 2 in the primary, and then.
See, I was talking to someone, and I said, in order to be a write-in candidate, you have to the person filling out the ballot has to spell the name perfectly correct.
No, well, that's what they. Duggan said at his press conference that that's not true. That it's the intent there. So if somebody uses 1G or someone says M. Duggan, then he'll be okay. So
I thought maybe he should change his name, like to MD, and then run a big campaign. Vote MD for Detroit.
That'll make it crystal clear. They'll be writing. Everyone will be writing in their internets.
I'm sure he's got a pretty big war chest for the campaign.
Sure.
And you know how like the basketball players, like World Peace, WP.
He's just got to do like Mike D. Then that would get him in. That's
Mike
something
D,
you can remember.
Yeah.
But I think Tom Barrow, I mean, nobody knows what he stands for. I mean, the city is in a mess. And is that the best Tom Barrow can do is campaign about keeping Duggan from getting on the ballot or running as a write-in? I mean...
Yeah, I liked your point at the end of the article, and you basically said, well, maybe one day we'll hear from Tom Barrow about what his position is on crime and the issues facing Detroit, which I think maybe he should get that message, and maybe he'll get that message, and you'll hear from him.
He definitely likes the Cupid Shuffle. I heard he did it at his the launch of his campaign. So
the what?
The Cupid Shuffle. You never heard of that?
No, what is that?
Oh my gosh, it's a line dance.
Are you gonna?
The rave.
Can you hum it for us?
Hum the line dance.
Well, Frida's got talent. I mean, we've gone down this road before. Remember what was the thing with? I love the song too.
A house is not a home.
A house is not a home. You know, she sang it.
Okay, it's like to the left, 2 hops.
It's like
right, left, stop.
Now
hands
I know
on your knees. Hands on your knees.
Now I know what
Can
you're
you go
talking
down
about.
low?
They do that at the bar mitzvahs all the time that I go to. The bar
It's
mitzvah
almost a
parties.
microcosm of what's wrong with the city. That we're having this race. We actually know that there's 2 legitimate candidates that we're going to fight for a spot. And now one of them gets knocked out on a technicality, and I understand the rules are the rules and all that stuff, but it just shows what is the real focus. Let's get focused on education, crime, operating within our budget. But no, we're talking about whether or not somebody filed for 2 weeks early, and now we're going to talk about whether does he spell his name with 2 G's or 3 G's or 4 D's. It's absolutely a waste of time, and it's an insult to trying to get on the right path.
Okay, so who do you think would be the next mayor?
I mean, it's either going to be Benny Napoleon or Duggan, but I think Duggan has a pretty good shot. I mean, I went to his press conference when he announced the write-in, that he was going to be a write-in candidate, and there really is an energized campaign there, and I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I'd say, there's probably in the field, there's probably 1 or 2 other good folks, but they don't have the name, they don't have the money.
Elfrida, who do you think?
I guess I am in agreement with Allan. It seems like they are the strongest two candidates. So, and it seems like
who you picking?
Who I picking?
Yeah.
Well, if my choice, I don't know. It's still
undecided.
Still a little early for me.
Speaking of undecided,
do you have a prediction?
What's going on? What's going on with the city council, and what is your take on
Charles Pugh?
Charles, other than he likes coffee in Seattle. I mean,
I think Charles. Charles Pugh could have. I mean, I understand he's in a bad predicament here, and all of us would want to run from that, but he could have at least resigned from the council. That would have at least lessened the craziness surrounding this whole thing. And instead, it sort of goes to his character, and it goes, here's the president of the city council who just runs. And, they're like, hello, where are you? And he knows everyone's looking for him. And I mean, it's a disgrace. It's really just, whatever he did, whatever the ethics or legality or whatever.
Or nothing.
Or nothing. I mean, there may be nothing there, but
you should create the inference that there's something there by running and hiding. It's not, you're right. It's just not the way to address the problem.
He could have quit, and at least it would have lessened the spotlight a little bit.
Yeah, because by quitting, it takes him, quote unquote, out of the public limelight from the standpoint of his role and his responsibilities. Then he can be chased by paparazzi if they want because there's a story, but he's not affecting city government. Whereas by disappearing, he's affecting government.
You see some politicians who are under FBI investigation, and some will step down, and it does not only lessen the spotlight, but it lessens the prize a little bit for the FBI to get an ex-congressman as opposed to a sitting congressman.
We've run out of time on this segment. I want to be sure and thank our sponsors, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Ben Johnson Law, Cronin Law Firm, Double Action Shooting Range and Gun Shop, Spine Specialists in Michigan. I want to remind people that we're not running any seminars right now, but if you want to come in for a consultation at Thav Gross to cover financial crisis issues or business issues or legal issues, it's always an option to you. You can go to our websites at thavgross.com or financialcrisistalkcenter.com and just click to request a consultation, or you can do it the old American-fashioned way of picking up the telephone and dialing 888-235-HELP, which is 4357, and you always have that flexibility to do that as well. Coming up on the next segment, we're going to talk about the student loan crisis and student loan debt issues, which are out there, big problem. We need to address it and need to figure out a path and a way to resolve that problem. As far as the city goes, I mean, we'll see how Kevin Orr does. Time's ticking. We'll see where it goes. We'll get a little summary of how the movement with the bondholders and everything else goes, and we'll see where that leaves us. Final words from David Einsteinig?
I'll see you next week.
In the next segment. We'll be back with the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for listening.